Hello everyone, and in this video we are going to discuss two mind-blowing games played in the 7th round of the Chess Olympiad 2022. And the first game we are going to look at is between Wesley versus Hrant Melkumyan, and the second game is of Gukesh, which have continuously won all the 6 games in a row, being on the first board, and it's completely awesome and mind-blowing. So we are going to check out the 7th round, the 7th game he played in the first table. It's going to be awesome. But first, we are going to look at the game between Wesley versus Hrant Melkumyan, and the match is between USA versus Armenia, and Armenia is currently the sole leader of the tournament. So definitely the game is going to be mind blowing, and you're going to love it. So let's quickly jump into the game. So playing with the white pieces, Wesley starts out the game with 1 e4. And black replies with c6. Guys, the game is short and we're going to complete it a bit faster. But yeah, you're going to love it actually. Just watch the game. c6, we have the Karo Khan, and here Wesley replied with knight to c3. d5, knight to f3. After knight f3, the common move looks like to push the pawn to d4, trying to advance the pawn, hitting the knight. But eventually after knight e2, hitting this pawn, you have to play c5, and after c3, it's white is actually slightly better, I would say. If you try to push the pawn, try to push knight f4, hitting this pawn twice, and now you can't even push this pawn because of queen f4 check, and you lose this pawn. Eventually the d6 pawn, d3 pawn as well. So this idea is not going to work. That is the reason black decides to develop the bishop to g4, and here Wesley simply played h3, hitting the bishop. Bishop f3, queen f3, and here we have e6 by black. The triangular setup very solid. White develops the bishop to e2, bishop to c5, short castle by white, knight to d7, ed5, cd5, rook g1, knight f6, and here we have d4, advancing the pawn, taking the center, hitting the bishop. Bishop went back to e7, all very normal stuff, very solid position. Bishop to d3, short castle, bishop to f4. So you see, white developed the rook, white centralized the bishop to d3 because it controls the light squares, and now we have bishop to f4 developing the minor pieces. Knight to b8, and now it's a bit of a strange move why black is going back with the knight. The reason black is going back with the knight here is because black want to develop the knight to c6 and try to put some pressure on the pawn on d4, and perhaps the idea could be to play something like e5 in the future. And after playing knight to b8, it also makes a square on d7 for the queen to come on d7. So it's a good idea. But yeah, definitely playing knight to d7 and then going back with knight b8, a bit strange. After knight b8, here we have knight to e2 by Wesley. So the reason white played knight to e2 because white wants to put the pawn to c3 and try to make his pawn structure like a triangle, and it's a very good pawn structure. Knight c6, and here we have c3. Now white is actually perfect, no weaknesses at all. Bishops have been developed, the queen is on f3 and now working, and generally in this position it's like a French Karo Khan exchange variation where the knight is generally on f3 and the queen is generally on d1, which is very equalish. But currently as the position is like this, it actually gives white a very high chances of counter-attacking with his pieces. It's a very good position, it's a very pleasant position for white. Rook e8, rook e1, g6. Black wants to play bishop to f8 followed by bishop g7, and the king is going to be very safe. Knight to g3 by white, knight to d7, rook e3. You see, white is coming with his pieces to attack the black king. e5 by black. After e5, if you try to capture this pawn, with the pawn, we have bishop c5. Hitting the rook and eventually going to capture the pawn on e5 on the next move. The rook is also hitting the pawn on e5. So white decides to play bishop to h6, which was a blunder, which turned out to be a blunder, because after bishop h6, can you feel free to pause the video and try to find the move, the best move in this position. I would not say that black was able to find it, but can you find it? So feel free to pause the video and try to find the move which gives black the advantage in this position. Okay, so all of those who came up with the move e4, simply hitting the queen and the bishop, guys, you are absolutely wrong. The best move in this position is to play bishop to f8, trading the bishop, and eventually after capturing bishop into f8, now black is going to push the pawn, and after queen d1, rook into bishop, bishop comes back, f5, and you can just see this position, how crazy it is. Like f4 is coming up, hitting the rook and the knight. I think it's a very pleasant position for black, and I think white is on a defensive side, and it's going to be very hard for white to continue the play. But now all those who have thought, why not e4? It also hits the queen and the bishop, and we are also not trading the bishop, so it's absolutely free piece. Why can't we go for it? And actually this happened in the game. Black played e4 and can. Now you can feel free to pause the video, and can you find the best move for white in this position? Okay, so all those who have came up with the move, rook e4. That's the reason. Rook e4, knight f8 was played in the game. F d4, queen f7 check, king f7, bishop check, everything is forced. King has to come up because of this. A very standard normal chess puzzle. King f6, knight takes pawn check, king has to come, g4 check, king has to take, rook check, king has to come, it's a mate. It's a fourth mate. If you capture the bishop, if you capture the rook, it's a fourth mate. It's a mate in 6. That is the reason after rook into e4, black used around 30 minutes and he played knight f8. And he's like, he's gone now. He blundered a simple pawn, which not only make him a pawn down, but eventually rook f4 comes in. And after rook f4, f7 is attacked. Black pushed f5, the only way to protect it. Knight f5. Sacrifice. Pawn takes, rook takes. He's having 3 pawns for a knight. And just look at this attack. The queen is coming in. There is no way to defend it. He played queen d6, trying to attack the bishop. Queen check, knight g6. It looks fine. But now comes rook d5. Again, spectacular shot by Wesley. So, I don't know what he saw before the game. Perhaps he saw some game of Mikhail Tal and he thought, now it's time to become Mikhail Tal. And rook into d5. You can't take because of bishop into g6. A very strong move. Bishop into rook is coming up, hitting the king. It's all over, I believe. Like if king h8, trying to remove this from this, simply takes, and you are still threatening a mate. So it's already over. There is no way to continue the game. Like if you take, it's still a mate like this. So basically, black played queen f6, g3 now, calm move, bishop f8, rook f5 hitting the queen, queen moved, bishop check, king moved, bishop to g5, and on the move number, after playing bishop g5 on the move number 28, black decides to resign the game, and we have the winner. Wesley. So very short game, only of 28 moves. The reason black resigned is because there is nothing to play. Like if you try to play something like queen 7, rook f7 is extremely strong move, and I believe the game is over. Like bishop is coming in. If you try to come in with the queen, like for example queen over here, rook into f8 check, you can't take with the rook because you lose the queen. If you take with the knight, it's a mate. There is no way you can actually continue this position. There are no moves. Like black is out of moves. So that is the reason black resigned. Fantastic game. Actually, I won't say it was a fantastic game, but the move that actually made this game very special is rook into e4 on the move number 19, sacrificing the rook and finding this excellent imagination idea, brilliant idea. I would actually consider this rook into e4 as a brilliant move. I loved it, yeah. And I'm sure that many of you loved it, and many of you thought that e4 would have been the best move. All of you have thought that e4 would have been the best move. Tell me in the comment section below. I want to check out. So, this was the interesting game played in the 7th round, and eventually Wesley won the game. But the end result was 2-2 draw against Armenia versus USA. So yeah, Armenia is, I believe, is still leading the tournament. So now we are going to look at the game of Gukesh, which is going to be mind-blowing again because he's currently on 6-on-6. I don't know what happened in the 7th round. So it's going to be interesting. So let's check it out. Now moving on to the next game, Gukesh versus Daniel Carlos. Gukesh is playing with the black pieces and Daniel is playing with white pieces. And yeah, Daniel Carlos is a very strong Cuban player, and Gukesh is from well-known India. And the game is going to be very, very interesting. So let's jump into the game. So playing with the white pieces, Daniel starts out the game with 1e4. And after e4, Gukesh replies with c5, the normal, standard Sicilian defense. Knight f3, knight c6, and Daniel chooses the c3 variation, also known as the Alapin variation. I have already made a video on it and how to play the Alapin, and you can go and check it out. d5, a very strong move and a very, very common move. e5, queen d5, and the reason black plays this d5 move is because after trading of the pawns, and when black queen comes on d5, as you can see that white have already committed the pawn on c3, white knight cannot come on c3 to hit the queen on d5. That is the reason the queen on d5 is absolutely safe to be on the d5 square. After queen into d5, d4, white is directly going for the center, knight f6, and here we have d into c5. And after gc5, here Gukesh, I think almost spent 15 minutes and he trades off the queen. King thinks. So definitely after spending 15 minutes and taking the queen, it definitely already shows that he's out of his preparation. King into d1, trading the queen. White is a pawn up, but the castle is broken. So what's going to happen? Let's check it out. After king into d1, black continues with solid e6, trying to hit the pawn on c5. White defends it by playing b4, and black plays a5. Black idea is to capture the pawn. After pawn takes, black can even go for capturing the b4 pawn. For example, if white tries to play e3, trying to defend it, all those who are thinking that after take, white pawn structure is a very nice one. But guys, after knight into b4, you can't capture because the rook is hanging. It's a very well-known common theory for the beginners level. If you don't know, you must know. That is the reason after a5, the best move was to play b5, trying to hit the knight. And here, black played knight e7. Knight e5, white trying to centralize his knight. But I think perhaps the best move could have been to develop his other knight as well. But yeah, knight e5 definitely also a fine move. One of the fine move. His idea is to play c6. Knight to g6, and he trades off the knight. What I think was that he should have played knight to c4. The reason he should have played knight to c4 in this position is, as you can see now, the knight on g6 is actually currently working as a defender piece. You can just see there is no hope for the knight to go on these squares because this square is covered by this knight. This square is covered by the bishop. So basically the knight is having not much scope compared to the knight on c4, because the knight on c4 can come on b6 square, which can be very deadly for the rook and the bishop. After knight c4, there can be a move like bishop into c5, but after bishop to a3, I believe the position is very fine for white. But what happened in the game, after knight g6, he trades out the knight and played bishop e3, trying to go for protecting the bishop, going for protecting the pawn on c5. But here comes knight g4. After knight g4, black is simply going to capture the bishop. c6 was played, takes, knight into bishop. All those who are thinking black should go for this capturing this pawn, but guys, after rook into, knight into, bishop e2, the knight is kind of trapped, bishop f4, and the knight is gone. And although you have captured the pawn on h2, that actually makes no more difference because the c6 pawn is already very strong. That is the reason he went for capturing the bishop. And after takes, just look at this position. Just analyze this position. Although white is a pawn up, but just look at the pawn structure. It's horrible. The pawn structure is completely a disaster. So after f into e3, black played bishop a6, developing the bishop, asking for the trading of the bishops. Knight to d2, he trades the bishop. You have to capture with the knight. You can't capture with the rook because the h2 pawn is now hanging. Knight f1, rook to h5. Fantastic move. Using the rook completely, and actually this is one of the ideas that many chess players actually do not see it. It's actually mind-blowing idea because Gukesh is actually utilizing complete board of chess, complete chessboard, but we don't. Many players look for the moves like rook c8 trying to hit the pawn, which also looks very standard. But he went for rook h5. Very interesting ideas like rook e5 can be an idea perhaps. I loved it. Knight g3, rook to e5, rook e1 trying to defend the pawn, bishop to d6, developing the bishop. He knows that these pawns are already too weak. He can capture capture the pawns anytime he wants. So he's trying to develop the bishop. He's trying to develop the other pieces. Rook b1, trying to control of the b5. Rook a6. I think he doesn't like to move his rook horizontally. Perhaps he likes to move the rooks vertically. So yeah, after rook a6, we have king to c2. As you can see that white actually can't defend the pawn on c3. c6, he has to give up the pawn. So king c2, and here we have rook into c6, and already black is better. Yeah. You can just look at this pawn structure. Horrible. White is simply a defender now. So yeah, we have e4, rook c7. Couple of moves were played. Like both the sides are randomly making the moves. Not randomly, but black idea is very simple. He's going for the pawn on c3. Already target have been made. Black is on the driver's seat and he's controlling the game. Knight e2, bishop to e5, centralizing the bishop, putting pressure. g3. All those who are thinking, why not black going to capture the pawn on h2, guys. After bishop into h2, g3, and the bishop is trapped. All the rook h5 still make it possible for the bishop to live, but not a good position. Not a good position. Rook f3, rook f1, putting pressure over here. Not a very sound position for black. That is the reason bishop e5, g3, rook c4, rook e3, defending both the pawns. The rook is actually overloaded. He played bishop d6 back, king d3. Couple of moves were actually played in the games. I don't want to waste the time by looking at those moves. But yeah, rook c4, knight e2, check. He actually pushed his pawn, advanced his pawn as much he can. So yeah, black is actually, white is the one who is just repeating the move. Black is the one who's grabbing the space on the king side, on the queen side as well. So now finally we have e5 by white. Like you can't capture the pawn with the bishop because you lose the a3 pawn. That's the idea. So black was forced to capture the pawn with the f pawn, which makes black pawn structure very bad. But eventually, let's see, will black get an idea so he can use these weak pawns? Rook a5 was played, king f6, king f5, knight check. He went back with the king, knight goes back, white is fine with a draw. He's like, I want to draw. I'll stop the game. Rook a4, keeping the game ongoing. And actually the reason Gukesh actually repeated the position once, because after repeating the position once, he reaches the move number 40 and he gets an extra time of half an hour, which is a very big deal. So now he played Rook a4, trying to make move pawn push. You can't capture the pawn because Rook takes, king takes, Rook into c3, and I believe this position is quite comfortable for black to convert the game, like Rook c2 is coming up and it's fine. So white went for capturing the pawn, Rook c4, king b3, and it's your guys. It's your turn, guys. Now feel free to pause the video and try to find the move. After playing this move, your opponent is going to resign. So feel free to pause the video and try to find the finishing blow. Yeah. So guys, all those who have came up with the move after a deep thought, bishop f4, and the game is over. Congratulations, you won the game. Bishop f4. Gukesh opponent took the bishop, and Gukesh was not on his chair. He was out watching other games. So when he came, he saw that his opponent took, and when he sat on his chair, opponent is like, I resign. After capturing bishop, the reason he resigned was, many of you are thinking that after takes, black is having a very strong pawn chain, which actually made white to resign the game. But guys, that's not the reason. The reason is, after capturing the bishop, after capturing the pawn, definitely you get a very strong pawn chain. But you see, Rook is having no space on the third rank to defend the pawn, and eventually the Rook have to move, and after it takes, it hit the king, and you can capture the knight, and now it's winning. That's the reason white decides to resign the game after here. So yeah, fantastic game played by Gukesh, 7 on 7. I'm not having any words to convey. He's on a fire. Scoring 7 out of 7 is on board number 1 is crazy. It's a crazy stuff. I don't believe it. So guys, no, he's just moving upwards. Perhaps he's going to become in India number 2. Perhaps he's going to win another game. 8 out of 8. Crazy. So guys, we are going to look out for his 8th game, definitely. So it's going to be very much interesting and fun. Guys, if you like the analysis of the game of Wesley and Gukesh, I personally believe the game played by Wesley was not so concrete, but the idea of tactical theme he found was brilliant. Like sacrificing the rook, sacrificing the queen, and mating his opponent. It's a fabulous idea. So guys, that's it for today. If you like the analysis of the game of Wesley and Gukesh, make sure to like the video. If you're new to our channel, then make sure to subscribe to our channel and make sure to click the notification bell for upcoming videos. You will get notified whenever I would be uploading any video, chess content, because I try to always upload chess content which will help you to increase your chess level skills, eventually help you to increase your level of the game. So I'm going to see you soon. Till then, stay tuned and keep watching One Shot Chess.